was very surprised to see that the Donahue episodes with Michael Moore, while he was out promoting Roger and Me, were not on YouTube. I am in Roger and Me. I was working at Buick Plant 36 at the time, the engine plant on the 3800 camshaft. They used my grinding wheels to grind the lobes. And I stayed up at the Sheraton on Pearson Road. And it was across the street from O'Meyer's Thrifty Acres. So in the part of Roger and Me where there's Captain Dada out front on Pearson Road shooting at the Myers Thrifty Acres sign, and the Flint police take him down. When this all went down, I was sitting in the Sheraton bar after work with all the other traveling salesmen and the, lounge singer women and whatever, and the cops came in and they said, hey, there's an active shooter situation. Nobody can leave the hotel. Well, this is one of those old 60s, motor inn kind of nice hotels, and it had a glass tower staircase on the side of it so you could go up and down and look outside. So all the guys at the bar ran up to the staircase and went to the top floor, and we watched all this go down. And you can see us in the film if you freeze frame it. So I don't know if that'll get me an IMDb, but I am in Roger and Me.
Thank you very much. Well, America, I am pleased to greet you from the home of the Buick LeSabre, the #1 domestic car in America today by independent survey, #2 in the world, and you make it right here in Flint, Michigan. And the whole country is talking about you. This is Flint, Michigan, and if you haven't been here, you're missing the whole industrial story of America's heartland. Now, wait a minute. That's not all. You got a big problem. You've got stores boarded up. You've lost 30,000 jobs over the past several years. You've got people who are not sure where their next paycheck may be coming from. And your city is the subject of a film about which everybody is talking. It will no doubt be the most talked about movie of 1990, and I am pleased to present its creator, producer, director, and star. Here is your native son, Michael Moore. Michael, you'll be mic'd here. You'll be pleased to know that. Michael, your movie is about your attempt to speak with Roger Smith, the chairman of the board of the largest manufacturing concern in the history of the universe. Your failed attempts to meet him. Your father is a lifelong General Motors employee, and you're a proud native son of Flint, Michigan yourself. And you think General Motors has turned its back on this town. tell us what message you feel is embodied in your film, and I don't think you're ashamed to say it has one, titled Roger and Me.
Well, it's the story about all of us. It's the story about thousands of people, not only in this town, but in cities all across America, that after 10 years of Reagan and Bush, it's not morning in America for us. It's, we're all working harder to earn less. There's no such thing as job security. It's a very difficult time, and it's a story that doesn't get told. I'm very glad that now we have a chance to tell our story.
In the late 70s, there were 77,000 General employees in this town, General Motors employees. Currently, there are 53,000, round numbers, some of whom have been relocated, moved, or given retirement benefits. Since 1986, General Motors has closed 19 plants, 2 in Flint, which were converted for other uses, and the others in 6 cities in 4 states. General Motors wants you to know, and wants everybody in Flint to know, that it has no interest in somehow contributing to the agony of the people in this or any other town, but that it must deal with the reality of the marketplace of automotive engineering today, which involves something like 600 models and scores of companies, and what they would say is an unfair competitive advantage by the Japanese and others. And the result is unnecessary paring down, becoming leaner and meaner to ensure the long-term survival of the remaining General Motors employees. To which observation you would say what?
I say quit whining, you know. You made, I would say to General Motors, in your last reported yearly earnings for 1988, you made $4.8 billion in profits. $4.8 billion in profits, Phil. Why are they closing factories when they're making a profit? You know, you'd understand it if they were losing money. They don't have money to pay people, so they close factories down. That makes sense. But they're making a lot of money, and they're closing these factories down because that's not enough for them. You know, $6 billion wouldn't be enough. $10 billion wouldn't be enough. You know?
General Motors is in business to make a profit. Every company in the United States is in business to make a profit. They are not in business to keep Flint employed.
Yeah, they're citizens of this country. Let me tell you something. They're citizens of this country. They're citizens of this country, and they're part of a community. They don't operate separate from everybody else. They have a responsibility to the people here that built them into the world's largest corporation.
But what about Roger Smith saving $17 million and sticking it in his back pocket last year? $17 million for the top executives, bonuses? Give me a break.
When Roger and his cohorts were pocketing this money, we were standing in line for moldy cheese and butter. They didn't come down here and say, here's some money. No, they gave us moldy cheese and butter.
And yet, what we have a problem here with, they keep outsourcing jobs to Mexico and places like that where they're only making 80 cents an hour. Why should we, who built General Motors, have to sacrifice or lower our lifestyle and our standard of living to compete with somebody in a third world nation? It just isn't right.
You know, Phil, you know, the American dream used to be that if you worked hard and the company prospered, you prospered. Now it's you work hard, the company prospers, you lose your job.
Are you giving any of the money that you make to Flint?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Are you giving any of the money that you make to Flint?
Well, I made it a condition of my contract. I made a condition of my contract with Warner Brothers, first of all, that they either provide homes or pay the rent for the 4 families that are evicted in the film, which they've agreed to do. And
Phil.
We're doing a number of other things also.
Can we blame General Motors for the loss of discretionary income? Can we blame General Motors for not returning some of that tax money during the good years back to the city of Flint?
Well, you know, they took all these tax breaks from the city of Flintville. They've had $1.1 billion of property abated over the last 15 years. They've received all these free tax write-offs with the promise of creating jobs. In that same time period, they've eliminated 30,000 jobs. We want the money back.
All right, here comes the company spokesman. It's me. Just for the sake of our argument, if General Motors could choose a spokesperson, it wouldn't be me. And you should also know that General Motors declined to send a company spokesman to this program. Now, here's what do you say to the following observation? General Motors has lost domestic market share over the past decade at an alarming rate. General Motors, the king of industrial manufacturing Goliaths, went from the high 40s to now about 33, 34, arguably 35% market share. General Motors sustained some of the worst word-of-mouth commentary from its own customers because of cars that didn't start in the morning, of shifts that didn't work, of door handles that fell off. You made a lot of lousy cars in the 70s and in the early 80s.
Hey, Bill, that's not what happened. That's not what happened, okay? These are hard-working people.
Are you denying the reality of their loss of market share and the research which indicates very bad word of mouth on the part of customers who bought, I say bought, past tense, General Motors products in the 70s and the early 80s?
They lost that market share because they failed to listen to the consumers. It was their mistake. They have always had the attitude in this town and throughout the country that what's good for General Motors is good for the country.
Right.
You buy the cars we want you to buy,
now, wait a
not
minute.
the kind of cars the consumers want.
Now, wait a minute. The consumers, right around the oil crisis, said, you're gas guzzlers, we can't afford them, gas is too high. General Motors re-equipped, came out with four-cylinder engine, and what do you know? The oil price crisis was over, and everybody wanted fins and air conditioning and power windows and all kinds of energy-consuming devices.
That's not true.
So that it's not necessarily fair to say that they didn't listen to their consumers. Look, they did and wound up with a car that nobody wanted to buy.
The point you bring up is a good one because, unfortunately, many people in this country have had to spend more time with Mr. Goodwrench than with their own children. I mean, there's a shared American experience where, people are sick and tired of sitting in the repair shop, sucking exhaust fumes and reading 3-week-old copies of People magazine. But that problem is because the design and the engineering that comes from on top at General Motors, because they try to get by on the cheap. And then you know what they do? They go whining about the Japanese. It's like, oh, the Japanese competition. It's like the Tigers whining about the Yankees coming into town. Oh, the competition. Oh, look what's happening to us. I mean, why don't you just shut up and build a better car? Shut up and, I think that's what the problem is, and they can regain that market share when they start listening to the consumers.
All right. Consistent with my policy of making everybody in the room mad at me. Now, just don't get crazy. You will have an opportunity to speak to what I'm about to say. Your average wage is $42,000 a year.
Not true.
Adding benefits and other entitlements demanded and agreed to in your contract, General Motors is saying that its employees, by and large, cost them per person as much as $55,000 to $60,000 a year. You are the highest paid blue-collar industrial workers in the history of the world.
And GM still makes a profit of $5 billion after paying them all that good money. They're still making a profit. They're worth every penny of it.
They paid $7 billion in wages in Michigan alone last year. The profit that was made, not a penny of it came from the domestic auto industry.
It came from Europe, where they're doing much better in the marketplace. Well, why is that? Yes. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to know, Mr. Moore keeps talking about the money that General Motors makes, and I don't believe he answered this young girl's question.
Yes.
Flint, Michigan today would like to ask big industry all over the world, come to Flint, please.
Right. Please let me just chat with Michael a bit here. Michael, you're an extraordinary human animal. You have my admiration. I saw your film. I was very compelled by it. I am pleased to recommend it to anybody who cares to solicit my opinion.
Thank you.
You did it with $260,000, which is about $1.50 in today's movie market budget industry. The film also is funny. The viewer feels somewhat uncomfortable laughing at the pain. You knew that, and that gives it its own unique signature. And now you look up to discover that you are almost solely responsible for what will be one of the biggest revenue producers of this or any other year in the movie industry. You are going to make millions and millions of dollars. Now I'm almost finished, Michael.
Yeah.
This is still America. You didn't hold up any banks. As far as I know, you've paid your taxes, and you've never been arrested for not wearing your seatbelt. So you're a good guy. Do you not feel some responsibility to be a little bit more specific about what morality play is taking place in your head right now?
Yeah.
What is your responsibility regarding the revenue that you are going to generate for yourself as a result of a film that really, in many, many ways, embarrasses this city?
Well, we're putting... We're putting a third of the profits into a nonprofit foundation to support the various causes and things that we want to support, and to help other filmmakers make films like this. The rest of the money will go into Dog Eat Dog Films, our production company, to make more movies like this, because that's what we know how to do now, and that's what we think is the best way.
That's what General Motors is saying it's doing with the $4.9 billion profit.
I'll tell you what. And I'm paying myself a salary of $35,000 a year. So if Roger Smith wants to meet me on that, he's welcome to.
Now, on the issue of the money that was extended, that was given to the people who are evicted in your film, those are not very big dollars.
No, it's token. It's a token amount. Listen, one movie is not going to solve the situation here in Flint in terms of inadequate housing, homelessness, etc.
Now, if I am understanding this arrangement, the four families who were evicted on the film will be the people who will receive the money.
Right, that's right.
But the money, how much money has been provided for these four families?
$25,000.
$25,000 total?
Yeah.
Well, that's $6,000 apiece?
Yeah.
Well, don't you have a responsibility to say that that's what the amount is?
Well, I don't know. When's the last time you heard of a filmmaker paying somebody's rent for the next 2 years? I didn't,
Okay.
I guess, you're right. I didn't have to do anything.
Right.
And I think the best service that I perform is trying to show this story, tell our story to the rest of the world, so that something can happen politically in this country. That's the real issue.
Right.
We have to do something to make this thing better for everybody.
All right. Coming to you. One more question, Michael.
Yeah.
The GM Mexico hat you wore because what?
Well, this is the future. I'm wearing the future right here. GM Mexico.
And your point is?
The point is that they've been opening factories in Mexico and throwing people out of work here at a time when they're making all of this money. And I think that they should build factories in Mexico for the Mexicans and help the Mexican economy, pay them a decent wage so that they can purchase products such as cars, and they should keep these jobs here. They come in the middle of the night, Phil, they close down a factory, they tear out the assembly line, ship it to Mexico, they just shipped another one to China. And at the same time, running ads called the heartbeat of America. I think it's a disgrace and it's an obscenity.
We're in Flint, Michigan, and we'll be back in just a moment.
I've lost my job.
Let the man speak.
I've lost my job twice, once downtown and now again at the engine plant. And both of these plants have just sold motor lines to the Chinese. That's not the bad part. There's no agreement that that motor can't come back here to our market. When are these people going to wake up? Give our work away.
What's your point? That they've farmed out the manufacturer of the block, you talking?
They've given the whole engine to China. They sold it to them. But there's no agreement that the Chinese can't make that motor, put it in a car, bring it back here, and sell it in our market. So they're just giving their own market.
Well, that factory in China, Phil, is partly owned by Reverend Moon, that General Motors has got this agreement with.
I'd like to know, how come in the movie, I know it's bringing attention to Flint, and these are all, everybody here is on an equal base. Everybody in Flint is good people. You put that down to people. Where are the middle class people? Where are the lower class people in your movie?
Well, I guess I like to focus on the people who are poor and who've lost their jobs because they don't own the media and they don't get their stories told. You know, our stories aren't out there very often. I just watched those end-of-the-decade news specials. All these, you know, not a word about joblessness or homelessness, 15 minutes on Michael Jackson and Madonna. This story just isn't out there, and I wanted to focus on these people.
Phil, I'd like to know how these people have any right to ask him where he's going to spend his income. When I see these people in Detroit getting their hair cut...
When you see what, please?
When I see some of these women in Detroit getting their hair cut, they're not spending their money here. They're buying their clothes in Birmingham. They buy their cars in Lansing. Who's supporting Flint? You people should be supporting your city.
Know why you filmed the Oak Park urban renewal area and implied in the film that it was the unemployed, laid off, displaced people.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Why you filmed the Oak Park urban renewal area in your film? And
because those people are unemployed and without jobs.
Those people were bought out.
No, that's another whole story, I'll tell you.
It's not from the unemployed people, though.
Take a drive through there someday. There's homeless people still camped out in those homes.
Michael Moore, throughout the film, attempts to get an interview with Roger Smith, the chairman of the board of General Motors, and along the way, he reviews what's going on in Flint, including what the moviegoer is left to believe is the rather shallow and shall we say, uninformed, cavalier attitude on the part of the wealthy of Flint, Michigan, who hold a party, a Great Gatsby party, on the front lawn of the Mott residence. Here is that scene from the film.
Meanwhile, the more fortunate in Flint were holding their annual Great Gatsby party at the home of one of GM's founding families. To show that they weren't totally insensitive to the plight of others, they hired local people to be human statues at the party. So what's it like here in Flint these days?
Well, things are tough here for the people that are laid off. There's still people working, and I don't think it's as bad as people may believe.
So what advice do you have for those who are having a rough go of it?
Get up in the morning and go do something. Start yourself. Get your own motor going. There's things to do out there.
I don't think it's real fair to just pick on the very negative things and publicize them and not pick up any of the really good aspects of Flint.
What are some of the good aspects of Flint?
The ballet. Your kids were involved in that.
Ballet, hockey. It's a great place to live.
Yeah, I want to know how come the UAW can let the automotive industry, General Motors, automotive prototype parts be built in Detroit, and how come the laid off workers aren't the first ones on the future cars building those General Motors parts? And it's happening all over in Detroit, and the UAW ain't doing nothing about it.
Let me,
I have a question for you. How many cars of the last 5 that you've purchased have been American-made?
I've owned a Chevy Impala and a Honda Civic. I've never earned more than $12,000 a year in my life, so, you know, that's the breaks.
Well,
I'll tell you, the number one American car, the number one car in terms of purchase in America last year was the Honda Accord, built by people in Marysville, Ohio. So this issue has nothing to do with American workers, and we shouldn't let ourselves be manipulated into blaming the Japanese. We're all workers, Mexican workers, Japanese workers, Korean workers. We're all in the same boat. GM does not build a single American car. Nearly 1/3 of all the parts in your GM car come from Brazil, Singapore, Taiwan, all over the world. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it.
Michael, I want you to tell these people what you said at the UAW rally the day of your premiere about finding new leadership amongst ourselves, because certainly our mayor is weak.
Well, yeah, I think we need new leadership in this town, and I hope that somewhere amongst you is that person to run for mayor next time and fight GM.
Are you there, caller? Go ahead.
Yes, I am. I would just like to say that years ago all these people were employed at GM. Now GM is not there for them. I don't understand what the contract or anything like that was, but I think we all had a choice of education or GM. The people who chose GM, now it's not there for them. Why should they blame them? They are capable of doing more than being GM employees. I worked for a firm in California. I made $60,000 a year. Now that firm is in Switzerland. I can't get mad at those people because they chose to leave this country. I have to use my other skills and talents and go and make a way for myself in this life.
Yeah.
We are all responsible for our own life, and GM is not.
Is this caller telling these unemployed auto workers to pull themselves up by their bootstraps?
Yeah, it sounds like a Reagan voter to me.
What I'm saying to them is have some confidence.
That's easy for you to say, but try to live through what these people are living through.
Yes.
That's right.
For years, General Motors has been strip mining the pockets of the American people through their tax dives, loopholes, and dodges. It's a fact that General Motors is making a profit right now. They have for several years. They acquired Hughes Aircraft. They have not brought any of that manufacturing back to this town, nor do they intend to. General Motors does know that it is not going to be building cars in the very near future. It's too bad that a lot of people here in this town are going to suffer because of it.
Yes. I'd like to say that I kind of like the show, and it told a little bit about what happened, but it didn't tell anything why it happened or any measures to be taken to solve these problems. I'd like to, I believe that the lack of bargaining cooperation between General Motors and the international unit of the UAW caused a lot of us outsourcing problems.
You're blaming who? The union or the management?
The lack of cooperation between the bargaining units of them, especially in the 1984 National Agreement, where incentive proposals were made by GM to the UAW that did not get down to the membership or to our presidents or our chairmans that would have eliminated outsourcing.
Let me ask you, were you encouraged by union biggies to strike Owen Bieber from your film?
Yes, I was. Yeah.
Were you offered any? Was there any kind of monetary vehicle to be used?
Someone at Solidarity House, the international headquarters for the UAW, offered to buy a number of prints of the film for the various union locals if I took out this scene that was critical of Owen Bieber.
Well, now it's critical. Let's understand this. The criticism of Owen Bieber in your film is it's oblique. What the film suggests, if I'm recalling this scene correctly, in the middle of this chaos with Roger refusing to see you and not coming to Flint and appearing not to care at all about the people, you've got Owen Bieber reaching across the table to shake hands, and the new spirit of cooperation with the union and the management is underway at General Motors, and you appear to suggest that this essentially, it was a maneuver to make labor more docile and manageable by the people who run General Motors.
Right. My uncle was in the sit-down strike here in Flint back in the 30s. He helped to found this union. It really hurts to see the UAW leadership in the 1980s giving General Motors whatever it has asked for and cooperating with the company. And you know what happened, Phil, is that The leadership thought by giving General Motors what General Motors wanted, GM would keep the jobs here. And what we got was 30,000 less jobs. And there's a lesson that we all learned back in grade school, and that's that if you give the bully what the bully wants, the bully doesn't become your friend. The bully just becomes stronger. The bully wants more. And for every time the UAW and the city of Flint has given in to General Motors has just wanted more and has eliminated more jobs.
All right, coming back. Let me just, before we break, here is the statement offered by General Motors regarding our request to appear on our program in Flint today. We are not interested in doing anything that might help promote a film that is inaccurate and totally unfair to the city of Flint, its people, and the thousands of dedicated GM employees working there. One more item. The Hollywood Reporter. You must be big, Michael. You're in the Hollywood Reporter.
You are too today.
In its latest issue, reports that General Motors, through its advertising agency, has admonished its dealers and General Motors family members not to advertise in this edition of the Donahue Show. And we'll be back in just a moment.
To be part of the audience, write Donahue Tickets, care of NBC, New York, New York, 10112.
Let me take a moment. Will you stand, please? Your husband is?
The general manager of the Flint Automotive Division.
Okay, so... And now the wives are in the front line. This is a good sign. Yes, ma'am, you wanted to say.
I'd like to say that we really need, we can use Roger to blame all we want. He's a name that everybody knows. But I think you and all the people in America that buy foreign cars are to blame.
If you buy a GM car, you're buying a foreign car.
Excuse me, I'm not done.
If you buy a GM car, you're buying a foreign car.
And don't you for a minute think that those guys at the top don't give up a lot and don't work their rears off to do what they're doing for General Motors. Don't you think it? Don't you think it?
Well...
I'd just like to know, a corporation that has told us time and time again, cooperate with us, give us your support, we're all in this together. They have no loyalty to us, according to the film. The GM representative for Flint said he has no loyalty. GM doesn't owe Flint anything. Well, how come do they expect loyalty from us as workers for their corporation? They don't want to give us any loyalty back.
I'd like to know why her husband isn't here stating anything to support GM workers.
This looks like the militant section to me. All right, yes, ma'am. Felicia, I know you'll be brief.
Yes, I am a GM worker. I've been laid off, and I have suffered the consequences of having unhuman practices in the plant as well out in the streets. Our schools are going as a result of the raping of our tax system. Our police forces, everything that we need in this town is dying because of what GM is doing to this town. We appreciate you. We love you, Michael, for making this film and telling our story. That's not true. I just re-educated myself. And I think this town's doing great. We've come back up on our feet, and Genesee County is one of the greatest places in the world to live in, to raise your family.
Yes, sir.
Phil, this town is not coming back on its feet. The reality is what he did, he put Flint on the map for everybody in the world to see the disgraceful kinds of things that's happening to people in this town. He did it. I'm glad he did it. We're going to support you, and we are going to get 2020 here. We want prime time, NBC, ABC. You got to bring them here. Bring them to Flint.
I'd like to know, after this hour is over with,
after the hype of Roger and me has quieted down, what is all this going to amount to, and what good is it going to do?
Would you have...
Somewhere along the line, some power people are going to have to care, and how are we going to make them care?
Yeah.
I was born in this town, and I can remember back in the 50s, you couldn't even get an apartment here because of GM would set us all working. Now there's a tearing down, but I tried to rent before.
No, but you were here for the heyday.
Yeah.
You were the big ride.
That's right.
Well, who do you blame?
General Motors.
Why?
Because they own our town.
Yeah.
They've always owned our town.
Yeah.
They run our town. They always have.
Yeah.
I want to know why, when there were so many layoffs and everything, and the colleges around here geared up, they hired more teachers, more administration, why you didn't go back to school and get a better job than what you had before. You blame yourself.
First of all,
you know, you got a university here. You got a university here in this town, Phil. You got a university here in this town, U of M Flint. U of M Flint. This city is 52% black. What's the percentage of blacks at Flint U of M? You know? Let's take a look at that sometime. These people can't get into college. Reagan cut all the programs.
Michael. In 1979, I was laid off from a General Motors factory here. At that time, we were all getting TRA, correct? I applied for TRA. I got TRA. Trade Readjustment Allowance. Excuse me. I went to Mott Community College, 2 years, full-time, you bet. I loved it. General Motors called me back. I worked 60 days. I got laid off again, and I lost a whole year of TRA and the rest of my money. That's right. That's what was going on in 79 and 80.
You have a brief comment you want to make?
I just wanted to say...
let me just say that you're wearing a New Directions button. Our viewers should know that New Directions is an organization formed within the UAW, union members who feel, among other things, to just give it the barroom general treatment here, that your union leadership has not been as aggressive as it should have been in arguing for the rights of the workers.
That's correct.
You wanted to say what, sir?
And what I wanted to say to the lady whose husband is a general manager in General Motors at the truck operation, I wanted to say, if we're going to be partners in General Motors, why didn't GM ask us about the 26 plants they built in Mexico? Why didn't they ask us when they bought Donahue in Korea and brought those cars here? Why didn't they ask us when they invested in Suzuki and Isuzu? GM has lost the market share and sold our jobs for profit, and that's their bottom line. It's not people.
Right, but can I just try? Wait a minute. Because if General Motors has an exclusively USA manufacturing base, there is no way it can build a car over the long term to compete with the lower wages, lower price, and unfair tariffs that are administered by foreign competition.
That's false. When the Japanese yen was at its peak, 240 to the dollar, what did General Motors and the big three automakers choose to do? Rather than lower the price of the cars so more people could buy American-made cars in this country, General Motors chose to put the money in their pocket and raise prices. That's what lost market share.
We'll be back in just a moment. All right, coming to you. Michael. Well, just let me take a moment. We should not be surprised that a man who presides over this kind of theatrical event, you are at the center of our popular culture. Your parents must be very proud of you. And it is also should be said that your play is no less than an allegory. It's a morality play. It does force America to look in the mirror and ask itself, where are we going? What has happened to us? And whose responsibility is this? It is also true, Mr. Moore, sir, that there's been, not surprisingly, a good deal of commentary about you. I said a moment ago that you were singly responsible for this film. Not everybody in America would agree. Among other things, Ralph Nader's office was very, very cooperative to you on the occasion of your dismissal from Mother Jones magazine. And you were asked and agreed to preside over a media critique, a magazine in which media would be criticized. Lo and behold, I don't know whether I could handle that. But you got a lot of help from, and underway here in Flint, among others, Mike Westfall, a proud UAW member, Jim Musselman, an attorney, drew up the idea for the film about what was happening. Please let me make the charge. Back in 1985, Ralph Nader and not a few of his the people who worked for him were challenging General Motors publicly on their attempt to get tax rebates. The idea of film came up. It was drawn. Interviews were made with people in the union and others, real solid citizen types doing in-the-trench work. And those people suddenly disappeared from the film. The film suddenly became Roger and me, Michael Moore. And you shouldn't be surprised that there's a little bit of disappointment, at least, that the high ideals which were expressed in the early go by people who didn't make any money on this film suddenly evaporated from what now is going to be a tremendous commercial success. You know, and also, Ralph Nader asked you for $30,000, I think, for rent. He said nothing untoward about you in public. And here you come saying Ralph is very upset now because when Cable News Network and the New York Times wants a quote about GM, they call Michael Moore, not Ralph Nader, unquote. Moore said. More people have seen the movie in 3 weeks than have ever read a book about GM by Ralph Nader. Naturally, he's a little jealous. The torch has been passed to a new generation. Michael.
Ralph, yeah, I know, but Ralph.
Michael, this is not classy.
Ralph
Nader.
Well, you're
said
reading.
nothing
First of all,
about
you're reading something from the Flint Journal, so you've got to take that into consideration. But let me say this. Ralph Nader has done an incredible amount of good for this country, and we all owe him a great debt of thanks. I mean, he's a great American, and you know, I think that I don't know who these other people you mentioned, attorneys from Nader's office hand-delivered a statement to you earlier today, stating that these people are off on a limb, that the Nader office supports this film, and that these people essentially were used by a couple of reporters. And I don't think
were you misquoted in the Flint Journal?
Yeah, I didn't say exactly that. I mean, that's not Ralph Nader is a very important person, and I think that he deserves our support and our thanks. And I think that's really all I want to say about Ralph at this point.
And we'll be back in just a minute. For those of you who have not yet seen the film, we have one of the stars of Roger and Me with me here in the balcony. Here's Rhonda, the Rabbit Lady. Hang on. Rhonda, in Roger and Me, Rhonda is just one of many Flint citizens trying to make a living after the considerable layoffs by General Motors. Let me see if I can. Well, are you a star, or people recognize you? What's going on in your life?
Sometimes they do.
Yeah? What do they say?
They just recognize me from the movie and stuff when I'm out at places and stuff like that.
Are you selling, are you still in the business of selling rabbits to either for pets or for meat?
I can sell them as pets and for snake food, but I can't sell them as meat no more because the health department got after me for it.
Thank you. Thank you, and I saw you in the movie, and we don't meet a movie star every day. Yes?
Yes, I was a college graduate. I worked for a company for several years. One day I was on the road, I called in to pick up my messages, and my employment was terminated. I do think corporations do have a social responsibility to the employees. Also, I received a call from Michael last night with words of encouragement and support, and I think that's one of the things he's helped us all do. Some people here have complained about he hasn't put the monetary incentive back into Flint. But I think by the movie, and I think by drawing us all up, I think that's one of the things he's going to have us accomplish in Flint.
Yes, I just want to make a comment.
Yes,
the
please.
largest employer has been forgotten. That is the small businessman that employs approximately 60% of the workforce of the state of Michigan.
But their livelihood
the
is threatened.
service people.
Right.
Their businesses are closed across from the plants.
And what do you want to do
These
about it?
people do not get unemployment, TRA,
Right.
everybody's sub-pay, retraining money.
Right. Oh, you think the unions
the
make...
small businesses receive nothing.
You either live or
Just
die on what you're able to do.
SOL. Ask me because I'm a businesswoman across from the closed Fisher plant. I do feel that we can pick ourselves up by our bootstraps. I've reinvested and hopefully will attract some new trade from the new Great Lakes Technical Center.
And we'll be back
yay
in
for
just
Flint.
a moment.
For a transcript of today's show, send $3 to Donahue Transcripts, 267 Broadway, New York, New York, 1007, or call 212-227-READ.
That's great.
Let me say that people stood in line from 2 in the morning to be here. I just want to say, hold on one second. I'm almost out of time. We're going to do a second show here in good old Flint, Michigan right now. Hold it a moment. Let the woman speak. Let the woman speak.
Services provided and promotional fees paid by the following. New Lipton Latza Noodles. Hearty instant oriental noodle soup in 4 delicious varieties. Lipton Latza Noodles for lots of taste. Clorettes. Fast-acting, breath-freshening gums and mints. Only Clorettes has Actazole with chlorophyll. It helps get rid of bad breath fast.
The Drake offers an exciting weekend in New York at a special price. The only Swiss hotel on Park Avenue. For reservations, call 800-DRAKE-NEW YORK or 212-421-0900.
We'll be back here, same time, same station tomorrow with this wonderful crowd from Flint, Michigan. We'll see you then. I am pleased to welcome our viewers back to Flint, Michigan for part 2 of a discussion involving involving 2,000 citizens of Flint, many of whom work for General Motors. And this program, as you know, has been provoked by a movie titled Roger and Me. And we are also pleased to have with us the man who is the director, star, and producer of a Warner Brothers release now appearing in your neighborhood theater titled Roger and Me. You should also know... You should also know that democracy, imperfect as it always is having some difficulty expressing itself here. I'm trying to get to as many people as possible, and it gives me no joy to tell you that not everybody is thrilled with me. So let's hear from you. What's the problem?
Well, I don't have a problem. I think you should recognize some people that are not with the New Directions group. There are other UAW people here. That's all.
All right. Thank you. Did you want to say something?
See, I stood in line along with several hundred other people to get my tickets, and we stood in line again today, and a lot of these over here did not. Now, the question, I guess, is twofold. One, Mike Moore owes this audience the name of the UAW person that tried to buy the film and buy him off. And if he can't name it, then I think he's making it up. What's the name, Michael?
Oh, I'm not going to cost that person his job. I'm sorry.
Listen,
All right, you can like it or lump it. You can like it or lump it, really. And you know, as the leader of the UAW here, I assure you, you didn't stand in line.
I would like to know what the union was doing before the plants were closing down. What is the union doing for the people of GM? They pay union dues every week. What are they doing to help?
I just say that we need a lot more Michael Moores. And another thing, no matter what you give back to GM as concessions, they do not lower the cost of those units.
I'd just like to say that we don't make the kind of money that people think we do for putting up with all that junk in there.
That's right. That's right.
I think Roger Smith said what he thought of General Motors employees at the end of the movie, which was he didn't want to come to Flint.
Michael Moore made a definite statement in his movie, but nobody's going to come to Flint after seeing it because nobody will be attracted to it. I am not from Flint. I am not from Flint, but it looked terrible. It looked really poor in the movie.
I would like to say that Michael Moore talks about everybody, GM is whining. I have never heard any more whining than I hear here from everybody. This is not a black and white issue. This is a gray issue. Nobody is perfect.
Yes, sir. You know, the only real positive thing that's come out of this movie, Mike, I guess outside of that, what's gone into your pocket is it's unified this city because this is a damn good place. And if you didn't show it, you should have.
Michael, I got a question. Michael, I got a question for you. You showed a lot of clips of the closing of Flint 1 and when it fell down. Why didn't you show any when they built up the Great Lakes Technology Center?
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why, because that Great Lakes Technology Center down on South Saginaw Street didn't put one person back to work that worked at Fisher 1. Not one. You know?
I think your example in your movie of the evicted people was in poor taste. You didn't show like an average, hard-working General Motors family that was
Hey, those were average, hard-working people.
You made it look as though it was a very poor, low-class
well,
type
those
of
were
people
those
that
were
renting. And
those
General
were hard-working
Motors
people.
that work hard
That's
are
not
buying
true.
their homes.
That's not true.
Yes, sir.
Shame on you for saying that about
I thought the movie
those
was
people.
a very good movie, but I don't think you showed enough positive images like the Bobby Krim Road Race, which brings a lot of people into Flint all over the world.
I think the people at GM don't know what they've got because if you don't work for GM, most people don't have health care, they don't have dental. You know, that's a lot.
Don't work.
Yes.
Thank you. What you answered this woman about the Oak Park projects, you didn't let it show that those were homes bought by GM. Those people moved out and got new places. GM did nothing with those homes for 3 years. That looked like our Flint. Those houses, GM let sit there and made our town look like hell.
The comment about the product that we put out, you call it junk. General Motors.
I didn't say it was junk today. I said
No,
you had your time.
but it was a comment over there said that we put out junk. Then General Motors say, they say we want a quality. They don't want quality, they want quantity. You work on the line, you work on a line and you have a defect to do your job and you try to do it right like they wanted you to do it, you stop the line, your foreman come by and start the line back up and tell you, keep on going.
Right on. I worked for General Motors 33 years. And General, I already have retired. General Motors managers told me just to run the parts. They didn't care about how they were, just run the parts.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I have to ask, did the rabbit lady ever work for GM?
I don't know. Rhonda, are you here? Yes.
Hey, you know, I'll tell you, her husband worked for General Motors and he died, and GM cut off her benefits. Not unlike you living out there on Miller Road. You got the junior league here. Stand up and defend.
I got news for you, Roger. I live in Owasso.
Oh, well, my name happens to be Mike.
And I've shopped in Flint all of my life. But if I'd have seen your movie, I would have been afraid to come to Flint. But I've been here.
Well, maybe you should be afraid to come to Flint.
I'll have you know that I live in Owasso also, and I shopped in Flint many times before I went and saw that movie. Had I seen that movie first, I'd have never shopped in Flint, I'll tell you.
Well, shame on you.
Michael. Michael.
Yeah.
May I ask Michael Moore? Michael, how do you feel about the general tone and what has transpired here yesterday? And on our program today. How do you feel personally? Are you surprised by this reception? Did you know it would be like this? What's going on here?
Oh, no, I'm not surprised at all. I mean, I think, first of all, the majority of the people in this town know how rough it's been because they've lived through it. And they're very grateful that you're here so that their story can be told. There are those, Phil, there are those, though, who are doing quite well. And you can travel through neighborhoods in this city and see how well they're doing, while the rest of the people here are struggling to survive. I'm not surprised that the Junior League or the mayor's office or the UAW leadership or the GM executives are upset at this film. They should be upset. I want them to be upset.
Roger? Okay, excuse me. One thing you asked about Europe. Why Europe? Because Japanese, they make better steel. One thing you declined to mention was the people that go to the bars and get paid $18 an hour to drink in the bars. And yeah, please.
Yeah,
I believe so. Another thing.
Don't insult these hard-working people here. Don't insult them like that.
Maybe 10 years ago it might have been that way, but it's pretty much not that way anymore. And a lot of people don't realize the bottom line to the bottom line solution to the problem of job loss in Flint is political. As long as you've got a president of the United States that's in the pocket of big business, we need trade legislation is what we need, because if an auto worker votes Republican, it's no different than a chicken voting for Colonel Sanders.
Please let me share with our viewers just one scene from Roger and me. This is, I think Mr. Moore would agree that the premise is his effort to talk to the chairman of the board of General Motors and encourage Roger Smith to come to Flint so that he can see what's happening to a town that is the most populous General Motors employee town in the world. Here is Mr. Moore as he makes his way to GM headquarters in his attempt to see Mr. Smith.
Where are you guys going?
We're going up to the 14th floor.
Do you have an appointment?
No, we're going to try and see Roger Smith.
No, you're not. You're not going to get on one of those elevators.
Why is that?
If you don't have an appointment, you're not going up to 14.
Well, can we go up and try and make an appointment?
No.
Why?
I need Tony or Denise.
And the reason to talk to Roger Smith would be?
Michael Moore.
No, what's your reason for seeing Roger Smith?
Excuse me.
We're doing...
I need to see you.
We're making a film. I quickly sized up the situation. 3 guards in the booth, plus the one with a corsage. A dozen security cameras and 4 new cars with inflated sticker prices parked in the lobby. If I made a run for it up to Roger's office, what's the worst that could happen to me? Before I could fully explore the consequences of such an action, my escorts to the 14th floor finally arrived.
Why don't you send a letter to us, and we will be happy to, as I say, take it under advisement, just as we do all requests to see the chairman.
Okay, it's just I've been waiting for about a year now to get this, you know, I think it's been under advisement for a long time. Well, and so what I'd like to do is just go up to the 14th floor and set up an appointment with his secretary.
Well, that would be impossible.
Obviously, I was getting the big blow-off once again.
Amazed at the amount of people that stood in line with me and were worried about people coming to Flint. Nobody comes to Flint anyways. What are you guys worried about? We have to do something.
Why do people out here condemn the UAW so much and expect them to be miracle workers?
I want to tell Michael Moore that I'm really proud of the job he did, because it's over-dramatized, but I let everybody know that it can happen to them, not just here.
General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler are so diversified in their foreign auto companies that they're their own foreign competition, and we're losing our jobs due to that.
I find it sad that you think University of Michigan Flint is just a college. It is one of the finest physical science and theater departments in the Midwest and the nation.
I would just like to say that the one thing that I remember growing up is the magic in Flint. The brick streets, the stores in Flint, that's all gone now. And we can complain all we want about it, but we're not going to get it back. And I think we should congratulate Michael Moore for telling our story.
GM and the union have to start helping the people instead of hurting them.
I think that we all need to start pulling together and stop pointing fingers at everyone. We're pointing fingers at Michael Moore, and we need to start pulling together.
Okay, I'd just like to say that this is the town that GM built, but this is also the GM that this town built.
I want to know how you got everybody's permission to use it. Bob Eubanks has got to be pissed. I'm sorry.
He's a little upset.
The references to the game show host, who is a native of Flint and who tells a vulgar anti-Semitic joke right there, right in front of the moviegoer's eyes in Michael Moore's film, Roger and Me. Yes.
Yes, I'm Jewish, and we're very sensitive to the GM workers, but what was the point of putting that in the movie? We don't understand.
I'll tell you why. Because racism exists in this society. And I don't think by not showing it... You don't think it exists? It exists, let me tell you. And by covering it up or not showing it doesn't make the racism go away.
I'd just like to say, I think you did a good thing, and I think it's going to help us out. I heard someone over there say, no one's going to come to Flint. Phil came to Flint.
Let me just show you, we're on a break here, and I'm coming out there to give everybody, as many people as possible, an opportunity. Just to give those who have not seen this film a sense of the tone of this film. Michael Moore continues his effort to reach Roger Smith, and he tries to find him at the Bloomfield Hills Yacht Club?
At the Grosse Pointe Yacht Club.
The Grosse Pointe Yacht Club. Here you are looking for Roger Smith. Roll the film.
I tried in vain to locate his house, but the name Smith was a common one among these people. I then read that Roger was going to be at the Grosse Pointe Yacht Club. I decided to drop in on the affair. Roger Smith.
I haven't seen him.
You haven't seen him here yet?
Just...
You calling?
Who, Roger Smith?
Yeah.
You want me to call Roger Smith? No, I'm trying to get a hold of the manager to see if anybody knows anything about him.
I'm sure he said the Grosse Pointe. I mean, it wasn't him.
Can we...
It was...
Who, his office?
Yeah, his office.
Why don't we call his office and
Yeah, I
find
could do
out?
that.
I have a television crew down here with Michael Moore. He's supposed to meet Roger Smith at noon. I have no information.
How often does Mr. Smith come here for lunch or dinner?
The last time I saw him here was for Sportsman's Night.
Yeah. What's that?
It's a wild game dinner.
Yeah. You go out and shoot your own animal and...
Pardon me?
You go out and shoot your own the animals you shoot? You bring here and eat, or...?
Well, some of the stuff is donated.
Yeah.
Yeah. The foods like rattlesnake and... let me think of some real exotic foods. Alligator.
Eat this stuff here?
Roast beef.
Yeah, that sounds better.
Yes. We'll be back to give these citizens of Flint, Michigan, an opportunity to speak, as we are proud to originate from what has to be the automotive city of the world, Flint, Michigan. We'll be back in a moment.
The lady whose husband is a GM executive, does she have to worry from week to week, month to month, if her husband is going to be laid off or out of work?
You want to talk? You want to talk? If you were with us yesterday, this woman is married to the head of General Motors, Flint. Let me say, first of all, they'll never accuse you of not having courage. And we should also say that if you didn't see yesterday's program, you took your hits in behalf of your husband, and not a few of the workers here want to know why General Motors didn't send a representative here. But I don't know whether you should necessarily feel obliged to answer that question. How do you respond to the woman who wonders about your employment security and whether you have to worry about layoffs?
I think there's always employment security worries for everyone that works. And I'll tell you one thing is the families of these people who still work and in the upper ranks are always worried about, gee, is he going to come home for dinner tonight? So, I mean, you know, we have to worry too.
Talk to her.
Roger Smith, wherever you're at, I hope you can see this shirt, because I realize that you're going to be leaving us in August. Thank you.
It says outsource Roger Smith.
Yeah. At least he has a job to come home from.
Yeah.
Amidst all this controversy, what are your hopes for the Oscars?
I didn't make this film to win an Oscar. I mean, you know, if it happens, it's very nice, and it'll mean that millions of more people hopefully will see this film and get active politically to stop what's going on in this country.
Hi, I just wanted to ask Michael what he plans on doing in the future.
Oh, I plan to make more movies. I think I've got other things I want to say, and I'll keep doing that.
Yeah, you must have received calls from every major studio in California, have you?
Yeah, just about all of them, yeah.
And you have not signed with anybody or made any particular legal commitment to your...
No, I don't want any of their deals or any of their scripts. I'm going to make my own movies, so, you know.
I'm from a UAW family. My grandparents, uncles, father, and myself work for GM. True, they are UAW. I'm salary. I've worked my way up through the ranks, and we have to ask ourselves.
I was just wondering, for whatever reason possessed you to make this movie, whether it was good or bad, because I'm not old enough, I don't understand all about all this. But I was just wondering why you would show, I don't know if I can name streets, but you showed the slummiest areas. And yeah, I mean, and then, you know, you can tell that from the people that have gone from rags or from riches in the shop to having nothing, than from the people that have been slums all their lives. And that's what that was. Mm-hmm. That wasn't people that had anything and then went back to nothing.
Well, a man saw what he saw, and a lot of us have seen it. You can't deny that. There are a lot of good parts of Flint, and we know it. So don't let it bother you.
I think it's a lesson for us to learn here. All Americans should buy American products and everything, not just cars, clothes, TVs, and everything. Make the big companies come back to us.
I'd like to say to the people that keep complaining about Flint, blood is thicker than water. If you don't like Flint, go back where you came from.
Well, where did they come from? Where did they come from?
Well, I'd just like to know, what exactly is Roger Smith so afraid of that he can't appear here and make statements?
Well, I'm getting tired of hearing, blaming everyone for buying foreign cars. Are there any foreign companies left that the big three don't own?
Well, your own company, as you know, is in partnership with Toyota in California. Mr. Moore has already made the point that you can now buy a Honda made in Ohio. And as you know, we have a Japanese company in Smyrna, Tennessee. And so, you know, where do we get by deciding who is and who is not a proud American? I'm not suggesting I know. I think it's important to at least acknowledge that this is complicated. Yes. Yes.
Has the mayor been invited to come here today, Mike?
He was invited. He was invited.
Yes.
Is he here?
No.
No?
Michael Moore, I would like to know why Jesse's Couch's recording, House Divided, was not included in your film. That says more about Flint and the UAW and the International than your film did. This is for you.
Michael, yes, recently I did some research on your paper that you have published in the past, and I was wondering, when did you have a sudden change of heart and concern for the working people? There was a cartoon in there about the shop rats. I felt you made fun of the labor workers. When did you have a sudden change of heart about the people in this town?
Listen, my family has worked in the factory for I don't know how many years here in this town, 50, 60 years. So we had a column in our newspaper here written by local auto workers. It's called The Rivet Head. It's Ben Hamper wrote that column and told the truth about what it was like working on the assembly line. It's a truth we don't read in the Flint Journal. It's a truth we don't see in the media here. And it's the purpose of the film, is to get these voices out there who never get heard from on national TV.
I want to compliment Michael Moore. Right now is perfect timing on his moving 7 more plant closings.
I just want to say I work for Chevrolet Truck, and a lot of us are good workers. We work every day, and we do not go to the bar and drink.
Well, I see a lot of people here who are complaining about his film. I'd say take off your rose-colored glasses. This is what Flint really is. Keep going, Mike.
Well, I just want to say I think it's pretty comical that the one lady's worried about her husband coming home from dinner when most of us here are worried about putting a dinner on the table.
And we'll be back in just a minute.
Of the audience, write Donahue Tickets, care of NBC, New York, New York, 10112.
Wake up, America. We're going towards international government, but we have national greed. Let's keep it here in the United States.
All right, yes.
I'd like to say I love America. I love Michigan, and I love Flint, Michigan. Keep my job here in Flint, Michigan.
What are we supposed to do, like, because GM left? Work at McDonald's or something like that?
Well, that's one of the points Mr. Moore makes in his book, yeah.
Yes, Phil,
Please listen to this gentleman.
I'm a 35-year employee as an hourly rate at General Motors, raised 2 children, bought a home, been treated very fairly, and I thank the Lord for this country and for this job.
You like the company, too.
Yes, I certainly do.
The people are worried that this movie is making it look bad on us and making people not want to come and live here. People should not be planning futures here right now. They should not want to come to Flint and live right now.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just like to say that I work myself to death for $4 an hour, while some people at GM, I know a lot of hard workers, but a lot of them don't do hardly anything. Some of them don't have hardly an education. I go to college to learn how to do jobs, and I get paid $4 an hour, and I'm waiting for a good GM job. That's why I go to college. But how am I going to get a GM job when they're moving out of Flint?
Yeah. I just want to say to the lady down there, she up here speaking about her husband is so right. Why she have to come talk for him? Why he can't himself?
I'd just like to say that my husband's
May we hear
a tinsmith at General Motors, and he just got notice that he was going to be getting laid off February 12th, and he went to 4 years of college.
So college is not a guarantee. I get it. Yeah.
I think the education is a real problem in Flint right now. I think we need better teachers, and I think they need to do a lot more for the students.
My family have worked in General Motors since they opened the plant here. We got a story, and Michael told it, and I'm sure great he did. And maybe it's not great, but we're going to stick together. We're not going down. But by God, we didn't get any help from GM lately.
You know, there's one thing that I failed to hear, and what it is my ex-husband and I both worked for General Motors, and we are divorced now. And there are more divorces in this area than, yes, it is from the shop. It was hard when you're both working. You're both working, and then you're off of work. You have no income. You're home together all the time.
Yeah. We have all the social problems here, Phil. We have all the social problems here that go with high unemployment.
I like to say we have to thank General Motors for one thing, knocking us down so low that we have no place else to go but up again.
Yeah.
worked at the home of the sit-downers. They repaid us by tearing us down.
Yes. Yes.
I'd just like to know what Michael Moore's going to do with all his money now that he made Flint look bad. Why don't he use it to help Flint look good?
You have a lot of GM workers complaining, but you still have a lot of GM workers driving foreign cars.
GM workers?
Hi, I'd like to know why in your film, when you showed the Great Gatsby party, you didn't bother to say that it was put on by the Flint Junior League, who are women who donate their time for a group of people that earn money that goes back into this community. Flint is a wonderful place, and people are trying to make it better.
Let me ask you something. How many unemployed women, how many poor people in the Junior League? How many blacks in the Junior League?
How many people apply for it? I'm not a junior leaguer, but I think they do a great job.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they do some good.
Yes, to the gentleman that said to get an education and then you can do things. My son, he got a master's degree 2 years ago, and he's been trying to get in General Motors. He haven't got there yet.
Give this the issue.
I'm a member of the UAW and very proud of it. This is where the union originated, right here in Flint, Michigan in 1937. And we're the people that's going to keep it together. We're going into negotiations. And I say to General Motors, make some commitment to these people and keep it. Thank you.
I would like to say that, after all, General Motors haven't been all bad. There's some good in General Motors. And Phil, I would like to say it's good seeing you. Well,
I'd like to say that General Motors asked us for commitments, UAW. They wanted to bring the quality and everything up, make us cost competitive. Even after doing that, they still turned their backs on us. It's going to shut us out over Chevrolet 2A there.
You know, they got the highest quality work here at these plants in Flint. They rank #1 or near #1 in quality, and the thanks they get is the elimination of their jobs.
I have a question for Michael Moore. I want to know about that joke you made with Bob Eubanks.
I didn't make it; he made it.
Well, he made it, but you put it in the movie, and I understand that like you're making a movie about pro-Palestinian and you're very anti-Semitic. Well, then how come half your cast is Jewish? I mean, half the credits are Jewish.
Well, I don't quite understand your question, but there were a number of Jewish people that helped on the film, and
I think we should also say that there are a number of Jewish people who believe this kind of light should be shown on this kind of prejudice.
Yeah, so don't stand up and knock the Jewish people.
Yeah, I can't get over there. Hang on just 1 second. Yes, briefly.
I closed down the truck plant. GM sent me to school, and now I'm a designer for General Motors. I work for Modern Engineering, but I design cars now, and it's thank you for General Motors for paying for that school.
Yeah, I want to say that General Motors is still in Michigan. General Motors calls itself Kenco. General Motors calls itself Craco. And 12,500 other companies around the nation, they pay $4 to $5 an hour and no benefits, 89-day jobs.
Michael, let me ask you a couple questions. You're a very astute guy who's done and who presided over a very important, how shall we say, non-establishment, non-booster newspaper while not long ago here in this very town. Did Flint vote for Ronald Reagan in 1980?
I believe actually the majority of the people in this area in 1980 and 84 voted for Reagan. But by the middle part of the decade, the people of Flint had realized the lie. And in 1988, in the Michigan primary here in Flint, the city voted 9-1 for Jesse Jackson. And the county, which is 82% white, voted 4-1 for Jesse Jackson.
Now, the Hyatt Hotel, the multi-million-dollar Hyatt Hotel project is featured in your film.
Yeah.
So is Auto World.
Yeah.
And so is the Water Street Pavilion.
Right.
Do I understand you to believe you did not get this technical in your film, and there are filmmakers out there who will say you were smart not to. Were these not financed by out-of-towners who took advantage of Reagan kind of tax largesse, enabling them to put in $10 million to a $100 million project, get out in order to enjoy the tax abatement that accrued from this kind of financial maneuver, leaving largely lifeless capital assets in the middle of town.
That the city still has to pay for. It's one of the tragedies of the Reagan era that they were allowed to get these tax breaks, build these things, and then skip out of town and leave the city stuck with them, having to pay off millions of dollars in bonds that the city had purchased.
Now, just one other thing while we're here. Please let me make this observation, and you'll comment on it. You know, Marx and Engels, if I might put it this way, would not be surprised that the workers are fighting with each other. This is what they predicted capitalism would do. Does this embarrass us? And how do we speak to this monumental philosophical question at a time when America uncertainly moves into the 21st century? I'll give you a chance to answer that big question in just a moment. Michael, what do you think? You know, what happens here? How do we have capitalism and a happy workforce? It's not going to be us and them. We're all God's children. If we don't make it together, we don't make it at all. I know this is rhetoric, but doesn't this bother you? How do we fix this? I mean, if Michael Moore can make millions and millions of dollars with a $260,000 film that he had to sell his house and his bed and oversee bingo games to pay for, and winds up in Bloomfield Hills, or is it Miller Avenue? Where was it?
No, I live on the east side.
Wait, isn't that the American dream? What kind of country do you want? And what limits shall be placed, if any, on his kind of entrepreneurship? Mr. Moore, sir.
Well, I think it's a very good point you bring up. We live in an economic system in this country that's unfair, and it's unjust, and it's not democratic. And until it's more democratic, we're going to have a difficult time making sure that everybody gets an equal slice of the pie. And I think we need more democracy in the economy, and we need it in the workplace.
Okay, I'd like to know, and in fairness to everybody here, I think we're putting General Motors against UAW, against everybody. Instead, why don't we put General Motors, UAW to work and go against the government and try to get things changed about tariffs and taxes and everything else that belongs in this city?
Because I'll tell you why.
An even playing field with the Japanese.
Because the government is on the side of General Motors. That's why.
Michael Moore, you really have brought attention to Flint, and I want to know, did you pray about this and have God behind you, or what?
Did you have God behind you, Michael? I want to know that myself. Wouldn't hurt you to say a few prayers, Michael. What do you... Huh? Yes.
My mother's an AC shop worker, and right now she's making parts for Mexico City. I mean, it's just bad.
In other words, labor's cheaper there.
Labor's cheaper there.
Yeah.
And I just think everyone here in Flint, Michigan, you work for GM. I don't mean to sound religious, but everybody just pray about it, because the good Lord up above can bring us through all things.
I would like to thank Phil for coming to Flint. I watches him every day, but what I want to know, who do we take these problems to? I don't think we can solve them.
Let me just say, this gentleman has just invoked God's name, and I do not present myself here to in any way disagree with that wonderful idea. The viewers at home should know that one of the features of Mr. Moore's film calls the moviegoer's attention to the fact that you paid Robert Schuller from the Glass Cathedral in California $20,000. Huh? The city paid him. The city paid him $20,000 to come here and say, "Smile, God is with you." One of the points Mr. Moore makes in this film is that the establishment appears to be doing an awful lot of tap dancing in order to solve some very, very complicated and important problems. Yes.
We all know that we have a lot to complain about, but there's a lot of positive things that are going on here. What we need to do is pick a positive thing and take all this energy that everybody's fighting about and put it towards one thing, the city of Flint. Pick a positive goal and go for it.
All right. I want to say, is your only solution to this problem making more movies,
Or do you have any other plans, or what's next as far as solution in this problem?
I think solutions to this problem are going to have to come, first of all, from all of you. You're going to have to get involved. You're going to have to get politically active and not depend on any political party or mayor or whatever to do it for you, because they've sold you down the drain for too long.
Are you there, caller?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead, caller.
I'm a middle-class small business owner, and I deal with GM workers all day long, and I believe that 75% of GM workers got what they deserved. They've brought a lot of this on themselves. I think 25% of the people are honest, hard workers, but the general amount of GM workers put in an honest 3 hours work out of 8. They get a buddy or a foreman to clock them out if it's a nice day, and you can walk in the plant and see TVs going and newspapers everywhere. I mean, if you're going to cry over losing a job, why not try putting in an honest day's work? And that's why automobiles cost $20,000 today.
I didn't quite hear what she said, but she said we got what we deserve.
Too much money, and that's why the automobile's so expensive, and it's your fault, and all you care about is your job.
Well, see, that's the whole thing. It's not our fault. Most people, it's easy to comment in other cities and towns. Until it happened to you, you will not respond to it. We're glad that a poor man like ourselves, Michael Moore, now has the money to get the advertisement. It's going to be a hell of a union contract coming up.
I am not from Flint, but I'm from a town about 40 miles to the south of here, Pontiac, who has been devastated by GM also. It goes back to 1982, and this movie brings attention to whether or not the integrity of General Motors is any good. GM told us in 1982, at the height of the Japanese invasion, give us concessions, do a better job, work harder, take a little less pay, and we'll have an equality of sacrifice. That has not happened. Communities are being pitted against one another. Tax abatement concessions continue to rise, and there has been no equality of sacrifice from the top of this organization, General Motors. Let's get this in. A lot of white-collar guys have lost their job, and women too. A lot of white-collar jobs.
In other words, let's not, you have to at least appreciate the rage of some very hardworking people who are not any more talented, not any more insightful, and not any less loved by God than the good old folks down in the trenches in the line, who also worked their you-know-what off and looked up to discover that they were part of what we call fat in a large corporation, something to trim. So do you acknowledge that there's been pain at every level of the corporation?
Not at the top. There has been pain at the lower level of management. There's no question about this. They have reduced people at the lower level of management, but the main sacrifice has come from the workers. Workers are producing better now, they're working harder, and they're taking less, and the sacrifices are not being made at the top of this corporation.
Right.
They're dealing with the same people in the cities.
Right. Why didn't you get the same deal that Ford got with profit sharing? Why didn't you do that? Off. Not a good, it turned it down. What's the matter here?
We deserve everything that we get because we fought for it. We have organized for it, and we would advise other workers who are being exploited to get out and organize and fight for their job. We want to tell Reverend Schuler to take his message of positive thinking to Consumers Power and see if they'll accept that for our utility bills.
And we'll be back in just We're back, yes.
Hello, I'd just like to say that Flint is a great place to live, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yes, sir. Yes.
I'd like to say I work for a small business, and I depend on GM workers for my living. And when they lose money, I lose money. And that
That's
lady,
right.
Where does she own? I won't shop there anymore.
That's right.
First of all, this is a comment to the caller. She said, I have GM employees and coming to my business. It may be in the past tense. I think we all better listen to the message and get busy getting ourselves together and prepare for this action.
Yes.
Michael Moore, you did a great job on a film. You could have used a little bit more with the good neighborhoods in Flint, but let me tell the world that the people of Flint are still working, and they're going to work and make this town back where it used to be. Believe it.
My husband stood up. He worked for GM.
What'd you say?
My husband stood up. He worked for GM for 2 years. He got laid off. He went out to a $4 job. He's got 2 kids to support. He found a job. You guys, you can find it. It's out there.
Yeah.
Michael Moore, next time you're going to film a documentary, the Miller Road area is not in Grosse Pointe.
I'm a General Motors and retiree, and thank God for General Motors.
It was the UAW that made General Motors what it is today, and I think the people in the United States of America is the ones that they should stay here and for us instead of go over there to Japan.
Yeah. Why can't we make this fair? If we should spend the money in Mexico and let them get their wages just like we do, and let's see who makes a better quality part.
Yes. No, don't say stuff like that. We need to support Mexican workers too.
And Josh.
Yeah, just like to say that I'm tired of those Hollywood firm bar types trying to condemn Mike and not give him an Academy Award claiming inaccuracies. The way they've been misportraying black folks for 4 generations, and Mike portrayed us so accurately in a few minutes, is just, you know, unconscionable. Good luck, Mike.
The President of the United States does not even have job security. Why do you guys want it?
Why is it a right to own a gun in this country, but not a right to have a job? Why is it a right? People should have jobs in this country. We all benefit from it.
There's quite a few of them sitting out there right now that have made careers out of welfare. McDonald's may not be a lot, but it's something.
We don't want to listen to that anymore. I'm sorry. These people worked hard, and they got ripped off. They got ripped off.
Not only is General Motors taking the jobs, but they're leaving behind all their toxic waste. They have over 140 Superfund sites. Not one has been cleaned up.
Yeah.
I just want to say if Flint falls, America will fall.
I agree with that. Yes.
I know that my family doesn't work for GM, and I think if my family can get jobs without GM, everybody else here that doesn't have a job can too.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
GM will pay for you to go to school, and they are good. However, I have to worry every day whether or not my husband is going to come home with a job.
Phil, this is the land of opportunity. And, Phil, there shouldn't be anybody in this United States out of work.
Yeah,
they shouldn't.
That's right.
Now, all we got to do is elect a man like you, and you'll guarantee it. Yeah.
I think it's about time that we start blaming our politicians, too, for all the foreign trade they allow.
I just wanted to say that I saw the Roger Moore film, and I think that film told the story exactly like it really is. And the big shots are not concerned about the little people. If they would show a little bit more concern, it would be better.
Are you pleased? Incidentally, EDS is making money. Are you pleased with the Ross Perot connection? And did that help General Motors?
No. Listen,
Did
Phil,
John DeLorean help General Motors when he was with you?
Hey, Phil, we have a modern-day Grapes of Wrath taking place.
I'd just like to say my grandfather settled here on the east side of Flint, Michigan in 1908, and I'm a plumber, and I want to thank Michael Moore for standing up against a big, large corporation, because the corporations are doing that to the blue collar.
We'll be back in just a moment.
To today's show, send $3 to Donahue Transcript, 267 Broadway, New York, New York, 1007, or call 212-227-READ.
You're the gentleman from the Convention Bureau. You're in Michael Moore's movie. You stand on camera and you say, we're going to have 1 million people visit Auto World. An hour and a half later, Auto World went right through the dumper.
Services provided and promotional fees paid by the following.
In Lipton Lots of Noodles, hearty instant oriental noodle soup in 4 delicious varieties. Lipton Lots of Noodles for lots of taste. Clorettes, fast-acting breath-freshening gums and mints. Only Clorettes has Actazole with chlorophyll. It helps get rid of bad breath fast.
Thanks for watching Cleveland Live Music. It's awfully bright out here. I'd click on another one of my videos. Quit looking into the sun. Your mother told you not to do that. Please hit the subscribe button. And if you want to support the channel more, there's GoFundMe and Patreon information in the video descriptions.